I guess we'll call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to consider the new Park Theater Advisory Board members. And I'll let Scott tell us about that.
Truthfully, I think we should talk B first, since we can't do A without B.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. The first item on the agenda is the second item.
Hopefully you got all the info in your packets. Everything in the change of the bylaws is in red. The only two changes we're making are number changes. We want to go from 7 members to 9 members. And also we'd like to go from 4 meetings a year to 6 meetings. So instead of quarterly, we'll go bi-monthly every other month. So we're meeting more and hopefully getting more feedback from the committee.
I'll make a comment.
No.
Yes. I think you should have 24 members.
Oh,
Scott, can I ask you a question?
yes.
Was it formed as a 501c3 or
It's
was
just
it
an
formed as an
advisory board.
instrumentality of the city?
It was just appointed by the mayor and board.
It was done after the completion of the construction, and it was an attempt to get more community
Sure.
input.
Input.
So it was not related to the initial Park Theater Board.
Theater group.
Park
No, it's
Theater
not part of
Group.
that group.
No, it is not that.
Okay. Because we wouldn't have the authority to change the 501c3's bylaws.
No, this was something set up by us.
So we had a long meeting at the Park Theater. We went over everything and covered some of that, and I think it was very helpful. I think these changes are good.
Was there any talk of meeting monthly?
There's going to be more input and more information going out on a monthly basis, but it's going to be as needed. But they wanted they increased it to 6 instead of 4.
When people I asked, we just talked about meeting more regularly. Somehow I just had it in my brain, that's what it would be, but if every other month is adequate.
But they did talk about meeting if need be. They could call special meetings and all like that, just like this board.
I think the addition of the two, or one of the additions, is specific to the Tourism Development Board. And I think that brings some engagement across our city boards and brings some connection for concurrent events through that. So I think that's a reason for one of the increases, and also allows more flexibility to get more input when board members can't be present for the meeting. So you still get a good dialogue.
There's been a lot of times where there's only 3 or 4 people there. 3 people are missing. So hopefully this will help increase the numbers of the meeting.
So I'd make the motion if there's to make this revision and increase by 2 additional members to the board.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion on this matter? If hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Is there any, well, I guess we'll do the first item now on the agenda. It's the new members for the advisory board. We'll move on to that.
It was discussed at the last PTAB meeting, and it's been discussed for several months now. We have 3 members that are leaving because of their term being up, that being Joe Harvey, Tanera Grissom, and Sandra Haynes. And I'm sorry, take that back. Joe Harvey, Shannon Gulick, and Sandra Haynes. Those are 3 that are leaving because their term is up. Tanera Grissom is leaving because she's having extra work and she just doesn't have the time to attend or be part of the group. So with that being said, she has 1 more year, and we're asking that Joe Harvey will continue on and finish up Tanera's term. That being said, leaves us with 5 additional members. And the ones that are being recommended to the committee and hopefully to the board would be Christy Ross with Tourism Development, Ken Youngblood, a lot of his sound and understanding of musical groups, Jonathan Jones, he's a figure in town that's well known for his banjo playing. And Vicky Myers helps out with stage during plays, and Emily Stefanik, which is a big voice of the community and has more than several children that participate in plays and all. And she'd love to see the facility grow and become a great asset for this town. And those are the 5 that we're recommending to the committee.
I think Jonathan Jones played the Grand Ole Opry at one point as well.
Mhm.
In all of these recommendations, they've completed an application to the park theater manager. We didn't have other applications, but I think all of these that submitted applications have good backgrounds to contribute to the Park Theater Advisory Board.
I do too. I know some of these, the ones I don't know are, I'm told they're very active at the Park Theater already. So I don't know how you think that.
Do both of these things have to go for the full board, Tim? Is this recommendations?
I don't really see why.
I know. Just ask the question.
It's a non-monetary proposition.
We may hate some of these people.
What does that mean?
I'm just curious.
Seemed like they did before, Tim. I can
That
research
that
it and
board
see.
appointed members.
Seemed like
Well,
they
if
did.
that's the precedent, I would follow it, but
I'll check to be sure, but I
Yeah.
think they were.
it's not.
Yeah, I
it's
think
not
we
a-
sent them to the board.
it's
Even
not-
First
the
time.
bylaws.
Yeah, I think
It's not costing any money though, right?
Yeah, it's all volunteer.
It's no harm, no foul. Take it to the board.
I think it's good to have the board's, affirmation
Sure.
for both these candidates as well as the manager and Kevin Roberts and the department. So I'd like to accept these nominations to be appointments to the Park Theater Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion and a second, sounds like. And is there if there's any further discussion?
I think we might want
We
to
need
say
to
a
vote on-
motion to accept Joe Harvey for Tanera's
Tanera.
position in
Because
the 5
she's
recommended.
resigning.
Yes,
She's resigning and let Joe take her place for the duration of her.
I amend my motion
Okay, and add that.
to reflect.
Yeah, go ahead.
what she said.
What, okay. Okay, so there's a motion and a second to all that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Looks like that's all. Is there anything else to come before the board?
Park Theater showing the World Series Game 1 tonight, so all we can say is go Braves.
Yeah, 6:30.
6:30 is pregame.
Go Bulldogs.
We'll wait for that one.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Here it is.
Got another minute. Our atomic clock.
Sure, it would be. fine.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make
Last
that.
time they did.
It's May.
There we go. Okay, it's 6:20 and we have a finance committee meeting scheduled to consider the purchase of a vehicle that's in the proposed budget. This is a vehicle that is for Nolan. He gave up his armored car and gave it to the police station, I guess, right? The police department. Okay. And again, you haven't decided between the Porsche and the Ferrari, I guess. So.
Yeah, I just wanted some input from y'all on that convertible red, which direction there.
The reason for bringing this up now is that we had cars on the ready to go with first Ford and then Chevy, I think, and then they have all canceled all deliveries because they don't have chips for the cars. So, but somehow Toyota got chips since they
They
make
got
them over
chips
there
for
anyway.
Camrys apparently. So
Yeah. So now we're looking at a Toyota. Is that correct?
that's right, a Toyota Camry.
And this is is the price about the same?
Yeah, it's close. I think
I think it's a little bit more, but
it's $113 over what we budgeted. So we
okay.
budgeted 24,000.
Mhm.
The quote that I got is 24,113, which is that's the state bid price on it.
Okay. Any discussion on this? It is in the budget. Nolan's
I
been
think
driving his own vehicle, so.
Nolan's very active. I mean, just a testament to, the watershed issue that we had after the last storm and meeting with the property owner the next day. He's got to have a vehicle to get around and have meetings and meet with departments and such. So
No, it's, we've always provided the administrator with a vehicle. The only thing I questioned was whether it needs to be an SUV, but it seems to be a moot point if we can't get the vehicles. So, we might trade that one around again if you, in the future, you decide you need an SUV.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see the need for an SUV at this point, but
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on it? Need a motion?
Make a motion, we approve this recommend board
second.
purchase.
All right, then a motion and a second. All in favor of purchasing this vehicle, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got your car.
thank you.
If there's nothing else to come before the finance committee, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Frank, you're up.
Actually, I can speak on this. This is the citywide watershed study, correct? And you can speak to it also, but so we had a staff meeting to discuss stormwater issues specifically in the Pierce Street area. I believe it was last week or the week before. I've lost track of time. Anyways, decided to next step, engage engineer in a watershed study of the Pierce Street area. So that's what this is, the official request to engage James C. Haley to begin the watershed study of the Pierce Street area specifically. And in the future, hopefully citywide, but this initial request is just for Pierce Street.
Anybody have any questions for Nolan?
So we had that meeting and they put up the map, and some of y'all were there,
Mhm.
and it showed the water and where the water was deep and where it would go in the flood and how much rain came. And it was really super interesting to see the water over the whole city and what happened, and this showed the stormwater issues all at one time. It was really interesting.
I will say from finance committee standpoint, this study is not in the budget, but it probably will go under our, I call the government cheese account. Is that still the case, Nolan? We would put it in
The government cheese account?
Government cheese account, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to Shirley and we can talk through what the,
I mean, I think it's a pretty good possibility. We could check on it, but you know,
Here's
it's
the
not
other-
going to affect the budget one way or the
the
other.
other thing is, I believe that the ARP funding will come back and reimburse us for this.
That's
So,
okay. Yeah, however, we'll get it paid for one way or the other.
that's right. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about item A? If not, we'll get Frank to address item B for us. I'm sorry. Do we need a motion in a second? I guess we do.
Yeah, what I actually requested was authorization to proceed with James C. Haley to begin that watershed study of the Pierce Street area.
So do I hear a motion?
I'll make, and I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right, Frank.
All right, I'm asking to purchase a front loader garbage truck. We've got it in the budget. It's under the cost, $305,000. We had $375,000 in the budget to do it. And I'm asking to, what you gotta do, Nolan, to get this rushed
Suspend the
on?
rules.
Yeah,
and send
suspend
it-
the rules because we are down a garbage truck right now. I have got a guy that comes in at 8 o'clock at night, runs to 4:30 in the morning, then 5 o'clock to 2:30.
Right.
So I would like to suspend the rules to where we can get this purchased as soon as possible. It's not built quite yet, but it will be here before long.
Do we have a date or an estimated
No,
date? Okay.
he's give us the date of 30 to 45 days, but he thinks he can get it quicker
Okay.
than that. Because whenever I talked to him about it, it was done in the process of being the bed put on and stuff.
Good.
So,
We'll put it under new business on the full board agenda.
okay.
Any questions or comments for Frank? All right, do I hear a motion to,
So moved.
thank you, Stacy. Second.
Second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Frank.
Yes. I think it's.
Yes, I adjourned the safety committee meeting.
No, it's right there.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm coming this, I was coming this way.
That little road right there.
Yes.
Yeah, McMinnville Pharmacy.
It is 6:50. We will open a public hearing to hear comments on amending the zoning ordinance of McMinnville, Tennessee to rezone 304 Mulligan Street from R1 low density residential to C2 general commercial. Anyone who wishes to make comments on this matter, please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi there, I'm Brandon Gloffelty. Back there is my father, Tom Gloffelty, in the green shirt. We're actually kind of new to the McMinnville area, and we live at 142 Clearview Drive, which is across from 304 Mulligan Street. We own the lot at 144 Clearview Drive as well, both of them directly across from that property in question. And we came here tonight actually to raise a little bit of an objection about it. Our concern is that there's a lot of commercial properties available across the town that we've seen, whether it be rent or purchase or whatever. And we think that it is, I guess, not very efficient to keep building new properties for commercial use when we have existing properties. Right next to the Gondola Restaurant, which is across the street, right next to that is a commercial property that I know is available. Down the street from that is more commercial property. We actually wrote a letter to you guys on this. I don't know if you guys received it.
We have it.
Perfect. So there's a letter and we listed a bunch of commercial properties and, all those are available as far as we know. And that's probably all within a couple blocks of our house. Throughout the town, if you go up and down Smithville Highway, if you go on 70S there's a bunch of properties as well. And as you guys know, Wayman Hale's building like a strip mall of properties across from Zaxby's restaurant. And, I imagine those will go up soon. Like I said, if you just go up and down the town, there's tons of properties available. So I'm not really sure. As far as I know, what's going in at 304 Mulligan is that we've heard it's like a realty office. I don't know whether it's, or maybe it's a lawyer agency or whatever, but we've heard that it's a realty office. Well, I mean, there's plenty of buildings I would think that are suitable to do just that, is to take care of a realtor. So that was our concern. And we just hate to see our neighborhood kind of slowly recede back. Directly behind their property, or I guess the neighbor to that property, is elderly people. They're both in their 80s. Next to them is also elderly people, an elderly woman. I know she's in her 80s as well. And we're concerned that eventually when their properties go up for sale, where does this end? Are we going to have more properties that are turned commercial? And is our entire neighborhood going to end up being like commercial land in front of us? Or, what's going to happen? So I guess that's our main concern. But anyways. That's all I want to say.
I do have a question for you. So 142 and 144, the house is 142.
Yes.
And then the lot is 144. And what direction does that? Does that go towards Mulligan Street or does that go to the other side?
142 Clearview Drive is right on Mulligan Street there.
First road to the right.
It's the corner of Mulligan and Clearview.
That would be the sloping lot.
Correct.
Directly, okay.
That's 142 is the corner lot.
And then your house is the one that is
We're-
fairly new construction there, the gray vinyl siding.
142.
I
Yeah.
understand.
There is a map in the packet towards the back.
It's about 2 pages from, well, it's actually the last page of my packet.
Oh,
There's one after that also, yeah.
But yeah, so currently at that corner, I mean, you have Colonial Realty Office, you have the Gondola. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak on that. I really don't know. So there's Colonial Realty Office though, and then there's the Gondola. So I mean, if you commercialize 304 Mulligan, 3 of the 4 corners there are going to be commercialized. It just feels like our neighborhood's slowly receding. I mean, we already have a direct connect in the McDonald's back parking lot from our neighborhood. I don't know. I just feel like who's ever commercializing this, if this was happening to their neighborhood, they'd probably be thinking a lot differently about it. So we just wanted to raise concerns and, hopefully you guys can all put yourself in our shoes and take a look.
Might everybody care if I offer something on this? Man, I do get where you're coming from on that completely. But I think they're in, please, Nolan or David, Katie, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but there are other arteries in this town, such as going out West Main Street, that are C2 all over. Everything going down through here is C2. So some of that is to be expected on properties adjacent to a 4-lane highway.
Right.
And I know it's adjacent to your neighborhood,
Right.
but property adjacent, especially corner properties on a 4-lane highway.
I don't doubt that it's got a great location there, but I mean, you have plenty of commercial properties that are currently available. I mean, why are we disposing of these properties? Why are we not repurposing them and using them?
Man, I'm totally with you. All I'm trying to do is bring some perspective from the other side in,
Oh, I
because
don't
I have no affiliation
Yeah.
with Mr. Jones, absolutely none at all.
I don't even know who's purchasing the property. To be honest. Our neighbors heard
I'm
that it
not
was
sure
going to be
if-
a realtor office.
I'm not
That's why I
sure.
said just vaguely. I don't know.
I believe it's changed hands. I'm not sure. I haven't
Okay,
dug into
yeah.
that part of it, but I look at it from, I kind of look at it from this side personally, that if I had invested in a piece of property that was on a corner and surrounded by commercial property, would it be a reasonable request for me to ask for rezoning? And I'll look at it, I understand your side too completely, but I have to also understand that the other property owner's rights are equal to yours. And his location, in my opinion, makes the proximity to
Right.
the highway makes it logical for it to be commercial. And all I wanted to do is give you that
No,
perspective
I
from me.
definitely, I
and
can
that's just
understand
my
that
opinion.
100%. But I mean, as people that I assume live around this town or in the town or whatever, I mean, you guys got to know that, you know, it's not a good thing for a town to have a bunch of buildings that are vacant. I mean, you go downtown, you want to see everything filled. It's great. We see new businesses. I'm totally in support of all the new business in town. Like I said, we moved here a year ago. It's a great little town. I love it. It seems like people are moving in more than they're moving out of this town. I don't know the numbers on that, but you know, I think it'd be great to see more buildings repurposed and filled up. I mean, you just go down Smithville Highway and you see vacant buildings all over. I mean, it's, you know, they're either for lease or for sale or whatever. And I just think wouldn't it be better to fill vacant buildings already?
I think it would be good if somebody was looking to rent, but if someone's looking to own, then what's on the market is available for purchase. And if they put their money out and their investment out, then they have a property owner right, just like you do. And I think that we've got to look at it from both sides. But this, again, I'm not speaking for the board. I'm just speaking
Right.
for me. That's all.
Well, I mean, like I said, I live directly across and so it directly affects me in my opinion.
I understand
In
that.
the future, you know, that we live here and like I said, I mean, the houses next door have people that are in their 80s. I mean, what's going to happen to that eventually? Are we going to see more businesses? Is my street just going to turn into commercial property and a business street?
I would doubt it because of the hassles that you get into TDOT getting access off of that 4-lane. That's one of the reasons that those corner properties are so valuable, is because you are not going to get a TDOT cut and a fence. I mean, it's an act of Congress or bigger to get that. So all those properties adjacent to the bypass, as we call it here, are safe with that TDOT fence behind them. This particular property is on a corner and has access from two sides. That's the only reason that this would be treated different than the other. And again, I'm not speaking for the board. I'm just trying to let you see from the other side of the coin, as I would see it if it were my investment that I had made.
Oh, I don't doubt somebody made an investment there. You know, and I guess from a business perspective, yeah, they want to see that turned into a business, but I don't know. I think that there's other things at stake here, at least in my side, obviously. And then obviously as the town as a whole, I mean, I think we should all be concerned that we aren't repurposing buildings and we see abandoned buildings and vacant places and stuff like that. I mean, why are we letting them stop there?
Mr. Glotfeldt, hold on, Mr. Glotfeldt, I need to see if there's anybody else in the audience that
Yeah,
has
of
comment
course. I
on
don't
this.
wanna be
We only
redundant.
have a couple more minutes for this
All right.
public hearing.
Thank you guys for hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Does anybody else wish to address the board on this rezoning? Hearing none, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Thank you. It's 7 o'clock. We will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the McMinnville City Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
Alderman Mr. President, Chastain.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. Each member of the board should have received those in their packet. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I will entertain a motion to dispense with those as read.
So moved.
The motion by Mr. Everett Brock. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Third item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. If anyone wishes to address the board, please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Hi, everybody. Stacy Lee, 120 Omni Drive. We're getting kind of familiar now, so. I just want to remind everybody of the Tennessee and US Constitution and that our government is representational. And one of the issues that I think that I see or a lack of seeing is a chance for not just at this meeting, because obviously some of your decisions are already made, for the public to be made aware of maybe what you guys are going to be talking about. I imagine that you might meet outside of this particular room at this particular time. And just curious to see if there's avenues that you use to talk to the constituents, such as, you know, social media or in-person meetings or anything like that, where people could maybe be part of that, you know, between the meetings, because they only happen twice a month. And I imagine there's probably more work that you do besides just 7 o'clock every other week. So if there's chances that, you know, that you're out there, you have social media pages or anything like that, that we could follow. I have a fairly large group of patriots that meet every single week, and you're welcome to come and speak to them. They are constituents. They are very interested, but they can't always be here because they have babies or, you know, they can't drive at night or whatever. There's different issues. So I come here and represent them as much as I can, but if you make that known to us, we could maybe get more involved, and I could help people get more involved with the government, because it is pretty important. The decisions you make here, it's a small group of people making decisions for 42, you know, well, not all 42,000, but you know, it does affect everybody, whether it's city or county. And obviously we have a huge push for tourism, and we're trying to affect people that don't necessarily live here either. The decisions that you make affect them as well. And I moved 1,000 miles to live here and I literally just moved another one of my friends here as well. And, you know, we moved here for a reason. We did it purposely. You know, I was born in a place, but I didn't get to pick that place. So I picked this place. And I spend, you know, quite a bit of time and money and investment in this community as well. And I'd like to see it succeed. And that's why I come up here and talk to you guys as much as I can. So if there's a way that we could find that out, I don't know how I'd follow up with you, but I know you're pretty much on Facebook a lot and very accessible, but I really don't know any of the rest of you and how to, besides, you know, email. I mean, is there any kind of group meeting or discussion or, you know, that kind of thing that you put out there? So we would be interested in that. My Patriot group would be interested in that. Okay.
Where does your Patriot group meet?
Every Saturday at 9 a.m.
Where?
Ramsey Park.
We
Until
have-
we freeze
have
out.
a social page on the city website. We have Facebook and
I'm on Facebook. You surely can find.
So
me
your
on
personal page, you have a
Yep.
personal page that you
I think I
announce
I think
your
our
public.
contact information is on the website.
The city
Right.
website,
Right, but
emails,
are there-
phone numbers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's for us to contact you, but what I'm saying is when we want to follow like discussion, do you have any kind of discussion pages or, you know, I don't want to stalk people on Facebook if it's their personal page. Any kind of town hall meetings or anything where people can discuss besides.
those are all advertised in the paper. We don't meet outside of advertised.
We can't by law.
Right, but actually, I want to interject something. I believe at the last meeting, didn't we discuss for issues that were brought up, just like Miss Morton's flooding issue, posting a timeline of events? So let's say that we start a discussion on Facebook, and then every time, you know, we basically say we're investigating this, and then every update that we have goes to that same thread so other people can follow. Didn't we have that discussion?
We-
So maybe.
Water.
Right, so that was our way to update the general public on that particular issue. But maybe there's a way to extend that for other issues that are brought before the board. We would probably need to formalize some process to figure out what issue gets on the Facebook page
Yeah.
but I don't see why we couldn't do something like that, but we need to make sure it's a board related issue, right?
It's just hard to
think?
follow like everybody individually, like, and if it's only in the paper and you don't get a subscription to the paper. I'm just trying to figure out a consolidated way. I'm just, and you don't even have to answer me now. I'm just saying that, it'd be an interest to everybody to be involved and hear more, because sometimes the agendas don't even come out till, maybe a week before the meeting. I mean, I try to stalk the agendas as much as I can and tell people what's happening, but the meeting is posted, but the agenda doesn't come out till pretty close to the meeting. So there's people that, I could mobilize, but maybe I can't mobilize them within a week or something. They're going to take a day off of work or whatever. So anyways, I just want to give you guys that input. I don't want to hog the time. Anyways, God bless you all. And if anybody ever needs prayer, just just know I'm praying for this town, this all the community and the members. And, I believe Jesus is my savior. Thank you.
Just can make one comment related to reaching out. We've also had a number of surveys this year. Back earlier in the year, we had a capital projects survey to determine the priorities of the citizens. The Community Development Committee has sent out, I don't know how many surveys this year related to different projects with TDOT and other organizations. And so that's a way to collect a lot of input from a lot of people. Thank you for participating.
And we do have some ideas. We haven't formalized anything yet, so we are working on that.
Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Melissa Scarborough. Lived here since 1989. My mother and father, their mother and father, their mother and father are all from Warren County. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I moved here to help take care of my family. And I realized I had moved to the loud muffler capital of the world. And the biggest trucks I've ever seen in my whole life. Literally, when I moved here, I could drive my Honda Accord underneath some of the cars. They were jacked up so high. And so I said, some things to some people about it, and then we started seeing some really bad accidents. And then the community mobilized and in a year or so that stopped. The trucks came down to the level they were supposed to come down. But the loud mufflers didn't. And they just seemed to get louder and louder and louder. And I was up here on Main Street today, and they just come roaring down, and they come roaring down my street. I live over in Westwood, and they come roaring. It starts at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it just goes all day long. So I'm wondering if we could better enforce a noise ordinance.
We do have a noise ordinance specifically for that within the city, and I do know routinely, because I get the packets from the police department on a monthly basis. We do cite for that, but unfortunately, with something like that, it's impossible to get every single one. So probably the best thing for you to do is vehicle description and a complaint to the police department and go from there, because like I said, we do get some, but we can't get all of them. So, but there is something to that effect already within the city.
That's good to know. I followed up with Stacy, and I did file a police report.
Okay.
And I have noticed the past couple of weekends, with the cell phones, people are racing now. They've got spotters marked and ways to control the traffic flow when officers are otherwise busy with events that are going on in the city. And that's when the drag racing seems to happen.
Where is that drag racing?
Down Morrison Road. And And so I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was an event downtown. Done and
Sip and savor.
yeah, sip and savor. And I understand the place are busy, down here, but they were out. And I know there was a race on Morrison Road. There was a race on South Chancery Street. And a friend of mine texted me that they were racing over on number 8 highway. And, it's easy to do that, being in and out of Nashville. I've seen it happen live there too. But, that's really putting lives in danger. I saw one of my neighbors tragically killed, pulling out of her driveway onto Morrison Road. And so just in the interest of public safety, I stepped forward and made the complaint. I was really, pretty upset about it. But just this past weekend, I heard a race start, and you can hear them because they're rumbling. They're it's like on the starting line, ready to go. And all of a sudden, I heard the sirens, and I thought, "Yep, somebody listened to me," and I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that effort. Stacy had told me that there had been a couple of purchases of motorcycles, so y'all could be a little bit more stealth in your approach. And I hope those motorcycles, I feel like they were probably on duty that night, and I appreciate what's been done so far.
Chief, have we had any complaints about drive racing?
Not that I aware of. If you had any complaints, I'm not sure this is, Officer Sellers. You can step in there. He's on night shift. I've not seen any reports come through, but we'll be out about. Keep an eye.
I want to ask a question because when Ms. Scarborough contacted me, I advised her to call the non-emergency number to do that. Being as it is a drag race and happening right then, does that need to go to 911 instead of the 668-7000 number? Because she did file a complaint through the non-emergency number on a Saturday night. She did do that.
And, did you file an actual report or did you just call and tell them?
I called and told them.
Did you speak with an officer?
Well, the officer tried to call me back, and I didn't get to tell the 911 operator that I have the thing on my phone that if you're not my contact list, call this.
So what probably happens is they.
He did try to call me.
For the call about it. It probably wasn't an actual offense report or a report or secondary, anything to really note that or even extra patrol, we could have been on there or to look out for, drag racers or something like that, that could be done on the non-emergency line as well. Or even if you want to speak to an officer, you can, just say, hey, can you send an officer by my residence so you can tell them, face to face instead of just, because dispatch probably gave them a number to call you. Evidently, you gave him a number, and if he didn't get you back, he may have went over there.
He actually tried to call me 3 times.
Yeah.
And every time I'm trying to answer, I'm thinking, I love this feature, on my phone, because it cuts all the spam out. But
Right.
unfortunately, if they don't leave me a message, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I called a emergency lady back, and I said, I have this on my phone. He's tried to call me 3 times.
I would just, if you call them again on non-emergency line for something like that, just say, hey, can you send an officer by or something? And so touch base. And maybe seen it over there.
I'm a little leery about.
Ms. Scarborough, we need to see if there's anybody else that wishes to address the board. Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, recognition of employees. There are several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to give any props to employees, the time is now.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yes, sir.
commend the officer at the door this evening, not for being at the door, but for being in court this morning and testifying in a case that Animal Control was forced to file to destroy a vicious dog in the city limits. And the officer acquitted himself very well and justice was served.
Thank you for your service. Mr. Ming, do you have?
Yeah, I want to recognize Mr. Scott McCord. He put together a strategic planning session for the Park Theater and did a great job with that. And I think it was very beneficial. So good job.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Item number 5 is communications. Item 5A is a letter regarding the first annual Ron Hillis Community Toy Ride. In the packet, there is a letter from Mr. Rob Wolford, who is the chairman for this group. And Chief, has he gotten with you about the route and their plans? Any issues? Okay. I'm hearing no issues with that. I'll entertain a motion to approve that letter for assistance from the police department.
So moved.
Have a motion by Miss Sally Brock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Everett Brock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 5B is a letter concerning the first annual West Elementary Wizard Run. Also in the packet is a letter from Miss Amber Bain, who is the West Elementary PTO secretary, and then Michelle Lewis, the principal. This is going to be November 13th from 8 to noon as a fundraiser for the PTO. Again, Chief, have they gotten with you about this? Any issues? Okay. Okay, thank you. You can come up here if you. Anybody have any questions regarding the event? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve their letter.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Steve Harvey. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
so much.
Item 5C is a letter concerning Christmas in the park. This obviously is something that goes on every year. They're now with the formal application process. Their application is in the packet. The date for that is going to be December 7th this year. Looks like set up at 5:30 with ending of the event at 9 p.m. So this should minimally affect businesses downtown. And again, this is a community event that takes place every year. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Everett Brock, second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 5D is a letter from Noon Exchange that came in after the agenda packets went out. It is from Ashley Wright asking to do the Field of Flags Memorial across the street in the grassy lot like they do every year. She asks permission to place the flags from November 5th through the 13th. I'll entertain a motion to approve their letter.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business. Does any member of the board have any unfinished business to discuss this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Under new business, I would like to put Mr. Southard's request for the garbage truck. Owing to the urgency of this matter, we need a motion, a second, and to vote on suspending the rules regarding public notice to take action on this item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Frank, is there anything else we need to discuss in this regard? Okay. Well, hearing no issues with that, I will entertain a motion by the board to purchase the garbage truck that was discussed in committee.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Any other new business to come before the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2147, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept the Sourcewell contract number 010720-AXN from Axon Enterprise for 20 Axon body cameras, licenses, and storage in the total amount of $107,546.71 payable in 5 annual payments for the city of McMinnville Police Department. To authorize the city administrator of the city of McMinnville to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Zach Sutton,
Second.
second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9B is resolution number 2148, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept the Sourcewell contract 040319-CEC from Bobcat of McMinnville for a Bobcat compact excavator E50R2 series in the total amount of $70,866.16 for the city of McMinnville Public Works Department, to authorize the city administrator of the city of McMinnville to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Everett Brock,
Second.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9C is resolution number 2149, a resolution of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to enter into an agreement with James C. Haley and Company to assist with the plans for development and coordination with funding agency for the water treatment plant upgrades and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by 3 people, Mr. Everett Brock.
Ladies first.
Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10 is ordinances. Item 10A is ordinance number 1824, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to change the zoning classification of the property located at 304 Mulligan Street from R1 Low Density Residential District to C2 General Commercial District and to express the time for this ordinance to become effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Steve Harvey and Stacy Harvey and a second by Sally Brock.
Hello, everyone. This is a rezoning for 304 Mulligan Street. I know we've gotten a little bit of an introduction already tonight. There are the maps in your packet if you haven't gotten a chance to access those. This is a rezoning that was brought forward by the owners of the property, Jessica and Daniel Jones, and they're seeking to rezone it from R1 to C2. This was a matter that came before the Planning Commission at the September meeting. And they voted to recommend approval to you all. And I can turn it over to Ryle and Rachel if you guys have any comments about that discussion from the commissioners.
The only input that I have is a commercial lot right there would be contiguous with what's across the 4 lane as well as what's right across the street with the restaurant and another office. If it were down the street or across the street in any other manner back up into the neighborhood, I guess we would be considering that spot zoning. But I personally don't have an issue with this, and I don't believe any other members of the planning commission have either.
No, I think it was unanimous with planning commission. It is considered contiguous with it, even though that's a large highway, it still is considered to be contiguous on both sides. So it's within the realm.
And the address is a Mulligan address and not a Clearview address, correct?
That's right.
Mhm.
I know it has access off of Mulligan. It may have, it's hard to tell with that property cut off of Clearview as well, but Mulligan Street seems to be the primary access point, which is, it mirrors Gondola in that way. And in staff's review, we looked at the land use policy plan, and it talks about the commercial districts around North Chancery Street and the bypass and the possibility of them growing and continuing or growing. And we felt like this rezoning aligned with that guidance from the policy plan. And the commission did discuss the matter brought up by Mr. Glofetti about it marching down Clearview, and felt that that would not be in alignment with the policy plan because it's clearly a residential area. Whereas this lot is on a corner with access on the Mulligan Street that has commercial properties across from it. And it is in alignment, as well as the point that you made about North Spring Street and Faulkner Springs Road. Those were rezonings that happened in the 90s where those two corners were rezoned, I believe, to R5 is what they're zoned now, but to give them a commercial capability.
Are the plans to destroy this house and build something else?
And from talking to, in the property, I should say the owners of the property are here. Jessica and Daniel are here if you have questions for them specifically, but she has shared that they plan to build their realty office there and
But not put it into the house, but build.
That's right,
standalone
build
real
new.
estate office.
Build a new improvement there.
So you said access will be from Mulligan Street.
That's where access is from that now.
So does that mean they can't access it off of Clearview?
The zoning code would allow for them to have access off of Clearview as long as they can meet the 30-foot from the intersection requirement for visibility and safety purposes, but they can have access off of the two public frontages. If that makes that.
Yeah, so it's up to them. So they can access it off of Clearview just like they can Mulligan.
That's right. No.
They would have to apply for that.
It's not on an application. They would alert us of their desire for that. And then we would check to make sure it met that 30-foot requirement or any other visibility safety hazards, just merely from traffic coming in and out. And then if there's some sort of infrastructure there, public works drainage infrastructure, they may have to work with Frank for that type of, but there's not enough necessarily a formal approval process.
But there are regulations governing.
That's right, exactly.
Any other questions or discussion by the board? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Kevin Brock,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby. Yes. Zach Sutton. Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10 is departmental reports. We have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board, please step forward. Mr. Purtle, do you have anything?
No,
Mr. Main?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Item 12 is announcements. Is any member of the board, Mr. Harvey?
I got a couple things, but they tie together. This recent article in the paper about the blue building is controversial. It is what it is. So I really don't have any comment about that. But one of the things that I thought was rather poignant is the write-up about Pedro Paz and his passing and some of the people, the comments that they made. And it just seemed to me that they tied together in some way. So what I'm about to say is probably the hardest. I know it's the hardest public thing I've ever done, but I'm going to say it anyway. And if I'm wrong, I'll take the licks about this. But I've got a few data points that I want to share, and these are all factual. These are circumstantial in most cases. Others are clearly factual. So I just want to go back and get all this in one spot for everybody to consider, both within the board and within the public realm. And I'll distribute a copy of this to everybody. So back in March, the Building and Grounds Committee, along with Sally and Nolan, we visited the blue building. And Ms. Hobbs was there from the Standard. And was there anybody? I think that was it. Everett and Sally, myself, Steve Harvey, Ms. Hobbs and Nolan Ming. And so after we went to the board, after the members of the board, Mayor Alderman, along with Mr. Ming and Ms. Hobbs went to the blue building, we basically said that this building was beyond repair. That seemed to be the consensus at that time. So we sought to revisit the appraisal on the building, which we did. Mr. Haston gave us a revised appraisal. We declared it to be surplus property by the city. And then we began the process of discussing how to dispose of the surplus property. And I believe some of it was in committee and some of it was in open board meetings as we just discussed this as we went through. During one of those meetings, Ms. Kirby suggested that we should just demolish the building. And I, quote, said that would be stupid money spent for some developer to come in and give us all a lowball offer to take it off our hands after the city sits on it and does nothing for enough time. So we're going to move forward here. And again, these are just data points. That's all I'm giving is data points. So a little while later, a couple, 3 months, we nominated Michael Griffith. Someone nominated Michael Griffith to the Historic Zoning Commission, or whatever the proper name for that committee is. Another data point. So in that light, the Kirby family, both Bobby and Rachel, and with Griffith, now comprise 3/5 of the votes on that committee. Right there. More to come on that. So later, as the discussion on how to dispose of the property came about, Mr. Pirtle and Mr. Harvey proposed in an open meeting, I believe it was the last meeting that we had downstairs in the lobby, an RFP process that encompassed a whopping 7 days from beginning to end. So we were going to take proposals, and 7 days later, we were going to open them. And I objected to that. I didn't think that the time period was long enough that we could get adequate interest. I didn't believe that gave enough marketing period and enough solicitation period. Mr. Baird supported me in that, and my argument carried the day. Another data point. So the RFP process was begun and it was carried out. And this is to me the most troubling portion of this. The day before these proposals were due, Bobby Kirby called me on the phone and proceeded to tell me about his supposed proposal and then the proposal of another group and what they were going to do. What he wanted to know what I wanted to see in a proposal. And my response was, I'm a blank sheet of paper. I have absolutely no predetermination, predilection about what I want to see at all, whatever's best for the city. He gave me a long explanation of what he might propose and told me about another group from Knoxville and what they would more than likely propose, and told me point blank that he'd been in contact with them. I've got a lot of problems with that, but one of the problems that I've got with that is that the proposal hadn't been received yet. And so if there was another group interested, I don't particularly think that was available public information about interested parties. So how he got that particular party's contact information is curious for me. So at that point in time, Bobby disclosed that himself, his son, and Michael Griffith would be partners in a successful proposal to obtain the blue building. And Griffith would also be the lender and would offer a letter of credit with that. And that whole conversation struck me wrong. My wife was in the vehicle with me. I'm going to the airport. She heard the whole thing, and it struck me wrong. So with that, you know, I've got to ask these questions. I believe these questions need to be answered. And I apologize if I'm going to offend people. And I just have to, like Harry Truman said, it's the truth. It might feel like hell, but it's the truth. So I'm going to say it. My questions that must be answered, from my opinion, are why did Rachel suggest demolishing the building?
Well, do you want me to speak to?
No, ma'am. No, and really, I don't want any response. What I want to do is
Well,
I just
I
want
want
to,
to.
I understand, but if you, and we'll have all the time in the world to discuss it. I just want to read this. I want to give everybody here a copy, and we can figure out how best to deal with it, because there's multiple things here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's five things that I think need to be answered overall. And I don't want to get bogged down in one thing. And these are just data points. That's all they are.
Well, it feels like more than a data point.
Well, I mean, it's a bullet point memo, and that's it. So I apologize for the feeling, but the desired result here is just for me to espouse things that are separate incidents that seem to be tied together. So, and it's just me. That's it. So that was question one. Number two is, was there an ulterior motive to nominate Griffith to the Historic Zoning Commission, given the fact that this is all tied up right over there in a proposal if it was submitted? 3/5 now, 3/5 of that group. The only question that I did ask Mr. Kirby is, would his proposal include the building in the historic district or exclude it? Which would be his preference? And he said his preference would be to exclude it, but if it's included, he could handle it. Quote, unquote. I'll just leave that where it lies. So the next question is, why did Pirtle and Harvey advocate for a 7-day RFP process? Seven days on a multi-million-dollar deal. It seemed ridiculous to me at the time, but in retrospect, it seems even more suspect. So, and then another troubling portion of this is, why did Bobby Kirby call me? He's never called me in my life. I know him. He knows me when he sees me. I know him when I see him. I don't say anything more than, hey, how's it going? That's it. Called me and solicited my opinion on a proposal, or what I would like to see in a proposal. And moreover, how would he have obtained the contact information of other people who may be interested in the building, but had not yet submitted a proposal at that particular time, when it's supposedly a confidential process? So I was very concerned about that. And then, and again, please, I'm not trying to insult you. These are just questions I've got to ask. And moreover, would it be possible that Steve would be involved in the construction, since he lives 200 yards from that site? And those are the questions that I have, given the data points that I've collected over the last several months. And to be honest with you all, completely transparent, none of them would have connected at all to me until I got that phone call. And that phone call felt to me like I couldn't, in good conscience, I couldn't just not say anything. And that's really all that I have to say. But I didn't want to have a private meeting. I don't want that. There's been enough, bad press about dirty dealings and all that. I didn't want to do that. So I felt like the best way for me to do it was to do it in an open meeting and let everyone do what they want to do. And like I said, if I've made mistakes here, I'll take the lumps for it. I don't care, but I don't feel that I'm doing my job as an elected representative of the city to notice so many different data points that seem to funnel to one particular location. And that's all. That's the end of my announcement.
Can I go first?
Sure.
The part about the 7-day period, I can tell you exactly why that was. It was in reference to Buzz Goss, who's turned in a proposal, and their proposal had a lot of contingencies. And they were on a strict time frame, and that is absolutely the reason why I was trying to make that happen in a short amount of time. It has nothing whatsoever to do with Bobby Kirby. My goal from the get-go on this building was to save the building and have somebody fix it. I don't care who it is. If you know me, you know that that's true. The short time period was because of Buzz and his group that let us know that they have a very good offer coming. And if in order to make this happen, there's a lot of things that have to happen, and they need to know as soon as possible. That was it. And no, I will not be doing any construction work on that project, regardless of who gets it. That I can promise you. Never has been discussed. Never will be. That's not my thing. I don't do that. I don't do large scale residential projects. I mean, I'm a small company. It's not anything I would ever take on.
Thank you.
And I have always said, when it came down to it, if we had to do something about the blue building, I would probably never vote to demolish it. But if the numbers speak and the citizens spoke to that as to what they wanted with that, I said, yes, I would. I said that from the very beginning when I got on this board. It would hurt me to vote to do that. I don't know that I would ever vote to actually demolish it. But again, I said, if the numbers checked out that way, and that's what the city wanted, who we represent, then I would feel like you would have to do that. I did say that. As far as how Bobby met up with the other applicant, was my Aunt Rachel Killebrew, who had been talking and trying to save the building before she dies. That's her goal. And she's been working on that for 20 years. She did a lot of the downtown work. She's done a lot of things for the town. And this was her last thing. She has been talking to them for over a year or two. I don't even know how long. But she's been talking with them about refurbishing this building forever. And so they were talking about it. They had a discussion about who was going to do what. And then they made contact with each other to say, I don't know. I mean, I would have to let him speak for what else, but I do know that's how that they made contact. Ulterior motive is far from Michael Griffith. He is above board and straight as an arrow. But he has a great interest in preserving the downtown and supports everything in making it better. And I don't want to speak for him either because he's not here, but I would think that he would want to see that building restored as well and bring it to life. He works hard for this town and he always has. So an ulterior motive at this point, no, it's not there. What else did you say?
As far as the historic zoning commission goes, that has no bearing whatsoever. I mean, that can go, this board can take that out, or we can leave it in, and we will all be glad to do that for whoever winds up that property. If you want it out, we'll take it out. That's the way I feel. If you want to leave it in, we'll leave it in. I mean, and that's it. So whoever gets it is going to have their way as far as that goes. And regardless of who's on the board, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's historic zoning board is, I mean, that's a non-issue in this case, as far as I'm concerned.
And I think Tim had said too, overheard, we were, after a meeting, the last meeting when we were talking about the RFPs and all that, it was said, we've waited 40 years. Why would we wait month after month after month? Why it's leaking? Let's do it. We have people interested. Let's do it. I think that was kind of a general thing that was being said along the way. Now, I don't want to speak for anybody because I want to be really careful not to do that. But that was kind of a feeling I felt like that a lot of people had was, oh gosh, we finally have set more than one. We have one person and some more interested in helping this building, and we're going to drag it out. That was my understanding and my feelings as to why they were trying to not just keep on keeping on. We've been waiting forever. Let's do it. Let's see what they got.
I know one thing, I didn't vote for Michael Griffith to be on that board because I had an ulterior motive. Or I thought he had an ulterior motive.
Well, and I voted for him as well, Mr. Brock, and I certainly didn't either. I wasn't the one that nominated him.
No, but you intimated that he was put on there Possibly,
I
because
just ask a question because at the end of this, and as Mr. Kirby said to me, this would turn into a $14 to $15 million deal. And so
maybe you're stringing a bunch of data points together that don't have a
and
whole lot of linkage.
and maybe that's very true. And like I said, if I made a mistake in this, I'll take the licks. But they are a lot of data points, and it seemed that they've funneled together at one point. Now, if there's no connection, then I'm going to offer my apologies. But the connection has yet to be decided. But I'm an elected official in this town, and it's my job to look out for the interest of the town and the citizens. And that's what I'm doing. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll take the licks for it. But I just couldn't let all that data come together and not say something about it. And I didn't want to have a conversation off the record with anybody about it, because there was more than one person that was involved or possibly involved in the data points. That's all. I felt like this was the best way to handle it. I'm not alleging anything. I'm just saying data points and asking 5 questions. I'm not alleging anything.
You
And
think
it's
the
very
rest
clear.
of us are not caring about what happens to the citizens? That's what it sounds like, Stacy. We all care.
No, Sally, that's not what I'm saying.
That's
I'm
what it
saying that
sounds
I'm the
like.
one. Did anybody else receive a call from Mr. Kirby?
I've talked to Mr. Kirby several times. I've talked to everybody that possibly has turned in a proposal for this thing multiple times. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
and because I encourage people to do that. I mean, that's what we
good.
want. We want proposals. I've talked to people that didn't turn in proposals.
I think they all wanted to know what we wanted so they could make the proposal that would do that.
My only question
I
is.
mean, I'm a blank slate too. I want to do what's best for the city, both monetarily and culturally. And that's the only thing that I've explained when I've talked to those people.
My only question is, what does the blue building deal have to do with Pedro Paz?
Well, but I'll tell you what, then.
And I'm being
No,
serious. I
no,
didn't-
and I'm
I
very,
don't think
I'm
it
very
has
serious. I'm
anything
very
to do
serious
with
too.
Pedro Paz.
I'm very serious too, because it was actually in the article about him. And it was about what people said about him. And I'll just, and I can tell you exactly what that was. And it just seemed very timely to me. Let's see, let me get right. I didn't highlight the area, but it was what people said about him, about how honest and straightforward he was. And that if he had a thought, you knew it. He would tell you exactly where he stood at all times. And so as I'm reading this, and then I go from above the fold to below the fold, and I read that about Pedro, who I go to church with and who my grandfather hired when he originally came here as a member of the school board. I've known Pedro my whole life. And I read that, and it spoke to me that maybe, I needed to have a thought and espouse it and to be more like that instead of having doubts or reservations. And that's exactly what it did to me. So thank you for the question of that.
May I say one thing?
Sure.
All of my comments have been in public meetings and on the public record. And as I recall, and there are tape recordings of those meetings that are available to anyone, including the general public. But as I recall, the blue building subject coming up, you, Mr. Harvey, asked me in a meeting out of no item on the agenda if there was more than one way or two ways to sell the blue building property, whether an absolute auction or a sealed bid process was available. I told you that to the best of my recollection, there were other alternatives, but I would have to refresh that research because I didn't know I was going to be asked and I hadn't researched it. I even made reference to a case in that comment that addressed the issue, but that I would have to go back and read and research in order to give you a more expensive answer than I did. Between that meeting and the next public meeting, we were fortunate enough in the city to acquire the services of Mr. David Baird, who happens to be very experienced in the development of commercial property, as I found. He, Mr. Ming, and I had multiple conversations on how do we proceed, and on what sort of timetable, because there was urgency that had been expressed at earlier meetings on making a decision as to the fate of the Blue Building, which has been discussed openly by this board for the entire 11 years that I've been sitting in this position. There was no discussion with me by anyone beforehand, including you, when that question was addressed to me as to how can we sell the Blue Building, or the Blue Building property, I should say. What are the possible ways of doing it? And the request for proposal idea or concept was generally known to me, but I disavowed any expertise in the matter, and specifically deferred in that meeting, to counsel with David Baird, who does have extensive prior experience. There was no part of any conspiracy by anybody that you named that I'm aware of or that I was a party to. And I don't think that there is any conspiracy now. There are controversies that exist as to the mechanics of using the request for proposals mechanism. It's not something you see very often in small towns. In Murfreesboro, 2/3 of the city has been developed through request for proposals. It's not a simple process. It's a time-consuming process, but I take on all of this discussion, and the last 11 years of discussion was a genuine interest, I think, by everyone who's occupied those chairs, that something be done about the Blue Building before it fell in on itself. We nearly let that happen to the Park Theater, but we didn't. And I hope maybe we have a similar outcome in the Blue Building, whoever ends up being the owner and occupier of it going forward.
The only thing I can think about in this conversation is the fact that it may appear that the board knows something and the public does not. I do not sit on the Building and Grounds Committee, and therefore I really don't have much privy, and I don't even think that the proposals have even been shared with the Building and Grounds Committee yet. So unless the RFP proposal folks have reached out to a board member and expressed some discussion with that, I don't really know anything about these proposals at all. So the public and myself are in the same situation.
I'll go on the record and say right now that I did not know that Bobby Kirby or what was his name?
Buzz Goss.
Buzz Goss were in contention for the property either, so. But I believe there's 2 other proposals as well that I have no idea who those are.
And I'm on the Building and Grounds Committee, and none of that information has been shared at all. I have no idea who would or wouldn't, other than a phone call that I've got.
Who would or wouldn't what?
I have put in a proposal.
We've talked about that lots of times. I mean, I've talked to everybody that we're talking about in order to try to get them to submit with proposals. Never kept anything secret.
I'm not saying
None of
that-
those are secret.
I'm not saying that you did. I was just reiterating.
Only reason I know 2 of them is because I'm married to one of them, and the other one is because my Aunt Rachel has been talking to them for a decade.
I understand that.
I hate to, I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a really long time. And that's the only reason I know those 2. I don't have any idea who the others
I
are.
understand. I was just reiterating Mr. Sutton's point that he doesn't have any information, and neither do I. And he stated that he's not on the committee. He doesn't have any information. I was reiterating that as I am on the committee and I don't have any information besides the one phone call. And that was before they would have been submitted. So I don't even know if that particular individual actually has put a proposal together. I was just reiterating Mr. Sutton's point that I am on the committee and I don't know. So I don't believe that information has come from within the city. That was my point, and just to his point that the public knows as much as we know, or as much as, at least as much as Zach and I know.
Which goes to lack of conspiracy.
Well, the way the
I'm
process,
just saying data points,
the way
Rachel.
the
It's
process
data
is
points.
going.
All right, let's wrap this up.
The way the process is going, the public and the Building and Grounds Committee should find out at the same time who the proposals are through the community development's presentation, correct?
There will be no less than 2 public meetings on this subject before there can be a final decision by this board. It could be vis-a-vis building and grounds and then the full board. Or it could be at a special called meeting, all of which would be publicly announced and publicized as every other meeting that this body conducts. And if we didn't do it the way we're supposed to do it, it can be undone.
Any other announcements to come before the board?
Yeah, we have comedian James Gregory on the 5th at November 5th, Park Theater.
Anything else? We'll stand adjourned.
That's so fun.
I don't blame him.
You can be pissed off all you want, that's not stopping.